name is Sarah and welcome back to another episode of Talking Fast. Alongside me every single week is manager Jacob. Jacob, first of all, how are you?
I'm good, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little sore, but we'll get to that later. But first, I want to know, what are you eating or drinking this week?
Okay, Sarah, for eating or drinking this week, I've got a good one, I think. And this, I'm throwing it out to... First of all, do you say herb or herb?
Herb.
Herb? I say herb as well. So I'm going to toss out a good thumbs up to an herb. Dill. Listen.
I guess it is an herb. I think when I think dill pickle. So I forget that dill is its own entity without the pickle part.
This is what I'm saying. Sometimes growing up, I wasn't a big pickle fan.
I hate pickles.
I like pickles on burgers and a few different things. Now I would never just eat a raw pickle though.
Nope, couldn't pay me to.
And I didn't like pickles, didn't like dill pickle chips growing up.
Oh, really?
So I feel like that's a one-to-one. That's kind of the same thing.
No, because I hate pickles.
But you like dill pickle chips?
I hate pickled anything that's pickled onions, any of that stuff. I hate pickles, anything. But I love dill pickle dip and dill pickle chips.
Okay.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird. Do you like salt and vinegar chips?
Yeah.
So you like everything like the vinegar, because that's how you pickle stuff, right?
Yeah, but I don't like. I think it's the consistency, the texture, like
okay,
all
I'll give you that.
Pickled things.
Because I'm not one to speak on that anyway, but I've come around to dill these days. I had a little dill on some fingerling potatoes the other day.
Oh, that'd be good.
It was good. And as we kind of move into like...
Wait, did you make the potatoes or did somebody else make them for you?
I made half the potatoes.
Okay. That's respectable. I meant more of like if restaurant or if you guys made them.
Oh no, yeah, I was at home.
Okay.
It was at home. And so as we move kind of into the colder months and cooking more at home and making nice warm dinners, I just wanted to give a shout out to dill really quick because you might be overlooking it and you might be overlooking other foods that you should maybe give a second shot to.
As an herb or herb, depending on who you are.
Yeah, vote in the comments, herb or herb. Sarah, what about you? What are you eating or drinking this week?
If you're up on my TikTok game, and we haven't talked about this since the new season launched, I'm in my sandwich era. I've accepted the fact that I am not patient enough for cooking. I'm not a cook. I'm not patient enough for it. I'm not a fan. But a
sandwich is an approachable amount of time.
Yeah, because it's not really cooking in my brain. It's preparing.
It's adding elements to something. Bread already exists.
Exactly. And the most I'm doing is like toasting it. Like so anyways,
right.
All these like sandwiches on TikTok, they're like these like Italian sub style ones that have like the burrata on it and prosciutto and just like a balsamic glaze and with a toast. Oh, it's so good. And arugula. So I'm in that era of my I guess not cooking, but cooking journey right now. And I'm playing around with making different sandwiches and having them for dinner.
Do you do the best part of making a sandwich? And that is when you toast the bread. And you take the knife and you go...
Scrape it. So
that was an awful sound.
We've had a
you know what I mean?
couple burnt bread incidences because again, impatience. I go, I'm just gonna slap this on the highest level on the stove, and then I wonder why it burns. Of course it burns because it's at the. And the funniest part is I'll be like, why did that burn? And then TikTok comments will be like, because you put it on like the hottest thing, and then I'll go, I know that's what I did. But anyways, it's part of the impatience.
You got a blowtorch on it.
Yeah, essentially. So yeah, I'm still learning like that part, but it's my sandwich era, which we love right now.
Okay, I'm into it. What about watching or reading this week? What do you got?
I'm still reading the A Court of Thorns and Roses series.
Yeah,
I'm on book number
episode.
2, A Court of Mist and Fury. So.
Okay, what's happened? Fill us in.
Okay, but I can't really tell you without spoiling things. And it's really complicated because it's fantasy. There's
Is it
like
getting
fairies.
better as the
series
goes on?
Oh my God. I've done a full 360. If you've read A Court of Thorns and Roses, you will know what I mean. From one character to the next, you're rooting really hard for one person, and then you flip your entire perspective on them in the second book within the first few chapters. Now I'm like all in on this other character. Anyways, all to say is the series is still incredible. I love it so much. I tried to read it in the car on the way here, and of course I got nauseous and car sick on the way here. But I've never been so just obsessed with a world in a series, and it feels like it plays in a movie in my head. I'm obsessed with it. It's so good.
Does someone own the rights to make these movies?
Yeah, I already looked into it because I would have loved to buy those
Also, shout
rights.
out to your personal broadcast channel now on Instagram.
My
I saw that you did post talking about reading in the car. I saw that you did post to that channel.
Yeah.
Everyone go follow Sarah on that if you don't already.
My personal except for I don't really understand the point of broadcast channels. It's kind of just
to update people when you feel car sick.
Apparently, but it's also like one-sided. Like people can do polls and stuff, but they can't interact back with you, which is a little odd to me.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just talking into the abyss.
There are moderators though.
Yeah. and I thought that, but then they can reply back to, which is, it's a little odd, but we're still figuring out what we're going to use that for.
Okay.
But what about you? What are you watching or reading other than my broadcast channel?
Okay,
Instagram?
this is wild. This is going to be just a quick one. Everyone ever has probably seen this movie, The Notebook, right? And it's a happy movie. Is it a sad movie? Maybe it's a little of both.
Is it an overrated movie?
I think so.
I
but
do
it's
too.
You know what? There's still a couple of moments that I was like, the hair on my arm stood up a little bit because I was like, wow, that's touching. But this was one of the dumbest situations that's ever happened to me. It happened at the end of The Notebook. I never thought about why it was called The Notebook, and I've seen it probably 5 times in my life, and it gets to the end, and I totally understand that he's reading to his wife this story, but I didn't realize, oh, these are her notes, and it's her notebook. And I was like, oh, that's why it's called The Notebook. Did you know that?
Yeah, because I also read the book though. So like,
oh, it's a book too.
It's a Nicholas. Oh my God, it's a Nicholas Sparks book.
Clearly, I'm showing my cards here.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about The Notebook though. I think it's a little bit overrated. But if I am I will watch if I'm in the mood to cry, because I'll cry regardless.
Yeah.
But if I'm in the mood to cry, I'll watch it. But
What do I watch? I like Marley and Me for that.
oh God, I can't watch that movie. I haven't seen it forever. I can't watch that movie. What are we listening to this week?
This came out a few weeks ago. I don't know if he was born here, if he grew up here, but he's lived here at some point. JP Sachs.
He is from here. He
is from here.
Yeah.
I know he's also lived in like a couple of different cities in Canada, I think.
I don't know if he's from Toronto, but he's Canadian.
Yeah. Anyway, I've throughout the years have liked songs here and there of his. I think he's, a good lyricist and it's kind of pop music, and I'm into that. But he had a new album come out a few weeks ago called A Gray Area, and it is full of certified bangers. Maybe I'll make like Jacob's songs to cry to, because there are some emotional ones.
Jacob's songs of fall.
Yeah. But I wanted to give a shout out to him because I think it's a
cool.
good, solid album, and it's pretty long too. So if you're looking for something,
I feel like people that are obsessed with JP Sachs are like obsessed with him. Like all the people I know that are like fans are like die hard. It's like you either like don't really know him or you're like obsessed.
Well, he's
and die
also
hard.
done. Don't ask me to name any off the top of my head, but he's done some really good collabs too.
Yeah, he used to do Julia Michaels, and he did like the one with her.
I wasn't up on the T. That makes sense.
That was their big one. Anyways.
Okay, what about you? What are you listening to?
I was listening to my fire running playlist.
Right.
So I actually like asked your advice a bit when I was like trying to develop my playlist for when I go for my big half marathon, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I think the playlist really played a part in me surviving that thing.
Of course.
Because you really need to, despite me trying to start with slow music, and I did not start slow, but towards the back end,
was that to pace yourself like off the top?
I tried to.
Okay,
it didn't work out that way. And I can't even imagine if I had like intense music off the top, I would have like written.
Right.
But I did try to pace myself, and then the back half was a lot of more like high pace EDM bangers, remixes to Taylor Swift songs. And the entire time I had this vision. My entire training, this is what I was envisioning, was me running up Bay Street to Out of the Woods by Taylor Swift. And I don't know why, but I think just like that song was like my rally cry while I was training, to be like, am I out of the woods yet? Am I in the clear yet? Good. Like, am I done? Am I like done training for this?
And just an amazing beat.
And it's
to it as
when
well.
the beat drops. So it worked out perfectly because I'd given myself a couple songs to skip. I had made my playlist like 2 hours and 15 minutes. So if I wasn't vibing with a song, I could still skip, but I could only skip a couple times. And as I was like coming up Bay Street, when I was hurting so much, Out of the Woods starts playing. And I was like, I know this means I have like 3 minutes left. It's the end.
It's like,
and as I like finished the last 100 meters, was when the beat dropped, and it literally was the only reason I had any extra power in me to be able to finish that thing. So
amazing.
The playlist does make a difference when you're running.
Somewhere you went this week, Sarah.
I went to the movie theater to go see the Eras Tour concert film movie.
Okay, did you stand up at the front and dance?
No, I have a couple bones to pick with it.
Tell me.
First of all, they kept the lights on way too bright. And I think it was a safety hazard because they knew people were going to dance, but the lights were like on. And maybe it's because I went to VIP too. It was not loud enough. I didn't feel like I was at the concert again. Like my ears were ringing for days after the concert. I wanted to feel like I was in that moment again. 3, I was all for the dancing. But we were in VIP. The reason we chose going to VIP is we kind of thought it'd be more chill.
Get rid
and
of
we went
some,
to a 9:45 showing. Like we were really thinking it was gonna be more low key.
Did you go like opening night?
Well, the Friday night,
The Friday night, yeah.
And it's still, I just happen to have the one group of girls that were like, which I wasn't going to judge them. I've absolutely gotten up and danced to Taylor Swift, but like directly in my view, like all my friends could still see the screen. I could not, which was like, I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. I was like, I wasn't like mad about it or anything, but I do maybe I realized I think I want to watch a concert movie at home. Like, I don't think I'm the type of person
just
to really...
with people that you know are going to be the right vibe.
And I could, like, make the music as loud as I want to. I can, like, you know what I mean?
Was it a good... Was there... Okay.
The production was incredible.
Was it all just the concert?
Yeah, there was no... No, it was no documentary stuff. It was just the concert. So
that's what I love about a concert.
When they have, like, the cuts behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I normally do, too. But I think... I was talking to my coworker today because she took her daughter to go see it. And it was so cute because she said to her daughter after the movie, she goes, I just really want to be able to take you to a Taylor Swift concert. Her daughter's 8. And she goes, but mommy, you just did. And so I think what that showed me is that this film was made as a way to make the Eras Tour more accessible to people, right? Because it's the most in-demand tour that we've seen in decades. And I was confused why she was releasing it in the middle of the tour, but now it makes sense. She did it so that everyone could say they got to experience it in the era in which the Eras Tour is happening.
Well,
which
for
is
sure,
really
like regardless
powerful.
of just like outside of how difficult it is to land tickets, like they're pricey as well.
Exactly.
So like, why not make it accessible?
And that's why I said, I'm like, you just saved yourself a lot of money. She goes, absolutely, because this little 8-year-old thinks she already saw the concert. And she goes, why would I need to see it again? How about you?
Oh, that's amazing. I did something, again, this is hurts my personal brand a little bit, but I thought that I would go and be great at trivia. I hadn't done trivia, like pub trivia, in a while, but I hit a pub trivia last week.
Oh, so you did go after the podcast?
I did go after the podcast, and let me tell you, I think
you weren't great
on net. I lost us 2 points. I was so the problem was that I was so convinced about certain things. And
that you were so passionate, you'd convinced your team that you were right.
Yeah, and I wasn't like talking over anyone to the point of like, I'm right, you're wrong. It was kind of the questions that no one really knew, and I was like, oh, I've got this. Don't worry, guys.
Like, this is my time to shine.
Clearly, I don't have it made out for pub trivia. However, we do have a trivia event coming up. It might be sold out by the time that you're listening to this, though. If it isn't, you should probably check it out at Snakes and Lattes.
Yeah, I'm hosting Taylor Swift trivia. And this time, Jacob's hosting it with me. So I hosted Taylor Swift trivia last year, and it was a success. It was so much fun. And now we're doing it again. And it's Talking Fast host Taylor Swift trivia. So it's also like my way of converting Jacob into a Swiftie. So he converted me into a runner. I'm going to convert him into a Taylor Swift fan.
Okay, that's a fair like 1-for-1 trade. But yeah, if it isn't sold out, check it out. If it is sold out, we apologize, and we'll be doing something like this again.
Exactly. We'll do other things.
Hopefully, I'll actually be able to bring some knowledge, though, to the experience. Luckily, I'm not going to be able to compete. I'm
the one that makes all the questions, so...
Okay, well, we'll see how this goes.
We'll see how it goes. But yes, if it's not sold out, check out Taylor Swift Trivia at Snakes and Lattes, hosted by yours truly. It's going to be very fun. Okay,
well, Sarah, this one's kind of a combined one when I was looking at the notes, because... we flip-flopped from the spring, and I was someone who was cheering people on at the marathon, half marathon races in Toronto this weekend, and you were running.
It is true. We did flip-flop, which that doesn't feel like that was that long ago that I was watching you run that marathon.
I know.
No, I only ran a half marathon. That was a full marathon.
But first of all, congratulations to you, Sarah, on completing
it.
I was hoping that you would wear your medal to the episode today.
I thought about it.
You hit your goal.
I thought about it. I did. I hit my goal. Not willingly, that's for damn sure. If Dean hadn't have been with me, I would have stopped. The thing that I hadn't publicly stated to everyone, because like I never posted my times, I never posted like my pace or anything on the internet before. I didn't want anything influencing me, but I had never. So like when I did my long runs, like I only ran 15K. That was my furthest long run. I had never done it like without stopping. Like I had stopped for water or for a gel.
That's
a
a huge difference.
Yep. And so for me to keep my pace and not stop was shocking. It's because I hit PBs in the 5K and 10K. It was just not how you're supposed to run a half marathon. Don't follow my advice, but ran my fastest 5K or ran my fastest 10. I was cruising. I saw Izzy with her sign that said Talking Fast, running faster, and I like slapped it. I'm like, yeah, we're going. My Nico had a sign that says, this is your Eras Tour. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then it went downhill from there for a little bit, but Dean dragged me along. Like I was
gonna say, you were locked in. I saw you just like probably 300, 400 meters from the finish line. And I took a video like right in front of your face for probably 50 50 meters, and I don't think you saw me.
No, I didn't. I like literally I see Jacob after the race. I'm like, oh, where were you standing? He goes, I was yelling at you. And the same thing happened. Like Nolan, like
Dean tossed a little thumbs up though.
And yeah, he did. Nolan saw me and like was screaming at, and I didn't see any of them. Izzy, same thing. I was locked into Out of the Woods as I finished, but yeah, hit my goal. And you're gonna be Jacob was like, oh, we'll see if we convince her to run a full. I did sign up for the notification for the lottery for Chicago.
Dipping the toes
I signed up for the notification for Chicago. So we'll see. That registration comes out tomorrow.
Amazing.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'm not promising anything, but we'll see how that goes.
We'll see. And I mean,
how was being a spectator for you though? Did
you know what? It was good. It was very different. I was talking to Haley. It was actually because I've spectated the race, but like not with. I don't think once with someone that I knew actually running.
Oh, okay.
Because most of the time I've just been running them myself.
Yeah.
But this time because I'm injured, I wasn't doing it. So I knew a ton of people and I was going back and forth from the watching to the finish line, congratulating people and whatnot. It was kind of a stressful experience, actually.
I know, trying to like see everyone is really
Haley
hard.
and I were first of all, it's like there were a lot of roads shut down, which is great. I don't have a problem with that, but it's just like complicates things a little bit for transit.
For like which side of the street you stand on, how to get around.
Yeah, where do you get around? So we were taking an Uber from the east side over to kind of like Bay Street to cheer. And the traffic was so bad, we like got out of the Uber with our coffees and we're like running to try to get to the place to see the first person. So I have a newfound respect for the people that congratulate or cheer people on along the way. Yeah. And it was just fun to like have the experience on that side because I'm always like, as a runner, you're always someone I am someone who's like, especially at the end of the race, if someone calls you out by name or they're just like giving you a lot of energy, that's a huge boost that I feel.
So getting to be that person.
Yeah, getting to move to the end. So it was like connecting with strangers on top of just the people that I knew that were running was also, I don't know, I think it was a rewarding experience.
Shout out Haley, because at the end of the race when I was talking to them, some woman legitimately ran me over with her stroller and I almost ate the ground because my legs were jello, and Haley saved me. She literally caught me. And this woman like literally was already 2 feet away going, oh sorry.
She's like excuse me as your ankle's getting
She took me out and Haley caught me. So shout out Haley, she saved my jello legs. Our guest today is a longtime friend, former colleague, and my ex-boyfriend actually once named a pet fish after his Twitter handle. Known on the internet as Stephen LeBron for his hilarious takes on basketball and the Toronto Raptors, Alex Wong is a former finance bro turned writer, radio personality, and best-selling author. Please welcome to the show the first time I've had a former colleague of mine on the show, as we just addressed, Alex Wong. How are you?
What's up? I didn't know Nolan named
ex-boyfriend.
Fish? Oh, oh, shoot! I wasn't even listening to the intro.
Ex-boyfriend. My ex-boyfriend. Yeah. He definitely does not listen to this podcast, but yes, he had a pet fish that he named Stephen LeBron after Alex.
Amazing.
Did you tell me this before?
I don't think I was the one that told you. Okay. I think one of my friends told you because I never put 2 and 2 together that that's what his pet fish was. It wasn't until like years later. That should have been the first red flag that I was dating someone that named their fish after a Twitter personality. But
yo, that's amazing. It's a huge honor, to be honest.
I was gonna say, you don't hear a lot of people who actually have pet fish anymore either. So like, respect to
I think he was scared of everything else, but we're here like not just because Alex is one of my good friends, but also because he just came out with this book, Prehistoric. Give us a Cole's Notes if you were to tell me why I should buy and read this book.
Yeah, right. Prehistoric is the history, the origin story of the Toronto Raptors. It covers a period between 93 to 96, and what I did for this project over the last 2 years was interview over 140 people that was involved in the organization, from players, front office, celebrity fans, and just everybody that was involved in the very beginning. So a lot of the stuff that I do, like I write a lot about sports, but I try to come at it from, I guess, like a culturally friendly perspective. So like people have asked me like, oh, I'm not a huge basketball fan. Like, can I still read this book and understand this book? And this is what I try to tell everybody is that, you know, this book is really just about stories, the stories of people here in Toronto and the story of the basketball community and the story of how an NBA team is able to come together from the ground up in the early years.
This isn't your first book, though. You've actually written two others, right?
Yes.
So what was the inspiration, though, for like this one? Was this a story you always wanted to tell, or one that you didn't think had been told properly, or like what was the inspo?
Yeah, I think a combination of those things. And I think the other thing too is I write a little bit about it in the intro, just about my own personal story. Like I immigrated here to Toronto from Hong Kong with my family in 92 when I was 8 years old at the time. And it was really hard for me as like a Chinese kid coming here, like learning a new language, like trying to make new friends, to really find like a community. And the first time that I really found community was when I got into basketball and I joined like my high school basketball team. And like I just really found, I know it sounds a little cliche and stuff, but it's like I really found like through sports, like I was able to just speak a more common language with everybody that I knew. And I've been a Raptors fan since the very beginning. So like a lot of this is like personal to me. Like I've always been very curious, have a lot of questions about like the beginning of the team. So like this was more for me to like satisfy my own curiosity, and then hopefully people can be interested too.
Were there any standout interviews then with people that you spoke to, maybe who weren't a part of the team, the organization, or the players that maybe, you know, stand out as interesting for the book?
Yeah, so the one that I've been using to promo, because I guess he's like the most famous name that's in the book, is like Samuel L. Jackson was actually a celebrity fan during the first season. So
shit.
Yeah, so what happened was like he was filming a movie here in Toronto, The Long Kiss Goodnight. And at the time, he had a relationship with some of the guys in the front office on the team. And if you guys remember, like the Raptors used to play at the Sky Dome.
Yeah.
So they were trying to draw fans, right? Like this is like a first-year team. It's a hockey town. There's not a lot of interest. So the team was like, hey, whenever you have time, just like come to the Sky Dome and like come watch games. So he would just show up and like sit courtside. And I was actually able to, through my friend Elaine Kwan, who worked with the team and became friends with Samuel L. Jackson and still keeps in touch with him, get like an interview with Samuel L. Jackson and like actually ask him what the experience was like. And the other thing, I don't know if you guys remember, so in the Quentin Tarantino movie, Jackie Brown, he plays this guy named Odell. He's like a drug dealer. There's a famous scene for Raptors fans where he holds up a duffel bag, and it's a Raptors branded duffel bag.
Incredible.
So I had to ask him about that too,
Yeah,
just
of
like
course.
the behind the scenes of how that ended up coming about. So
Has he been to a game since the 90s?
So he has, whenever he comes and films in Toronto, like he'll come support. Like definitely not like I think in recent years.
Yeah.
But like he definitely kept in touch and like became like, even when Vince Carter was here, like sometimes you would see him like show up like courtside and stuff. But I just thought it was neat because like everybody like present day associates Drake as like the global ambassador, the celebrity. And there's this like really famous photo, if anybody Google Samuel Jackson Raptors, of him sitting courtside at the Sky Dome. He's wearing like a Raptors leather jacket, a hat, and a whole thing. And people have always like, it shows up on like Instagram and stuff when people just post like throwback photos. So like that was one, it was honestly a very random thing. I just asked my friend Elaine, I'm like, can you actually put me in touch with him? And yeah, that was the shortest Google Calendar invite I've ever gotten, because his agent was like, yeah, he has 5 minutes. So it was like this small, and like it was like 2 to 2:05 p.m.
when you're looking,
Yeah,
on
I'm like,
the thing,
this
it's
is
like a sliver.
I'm like, this is insane. But we ended up talking for like 9 minutes.
Yeah, but
so
it's
it
a
was fun.
sliver with Samuel L. Jackson, which is
Yeah,
a
it was hilarious because
sliver
I
in
opened the
itself.
interview with him too. I was like, "Hey, big fan." He's like, "I've heard that before." He's like, "I've heard that." He's like, "I've heard that before. Just please, just get to it."
I feel like we also have to bring back, like, even if it's one game every 10 years, but play it in the Sky Dome.
Yeah.
I think they should. When will they stop that? I mean, like, so you said this is about like the start of the Raptors, like prehistoric. It predates myself. I was born in 96, so I didn't experience any of that, like part of the Raptors. So that's why I'm stoked to read it, because I think it'll also like be part of the history. Like I was very part of the new fandom of Raptors fans when you and I worked together at Yahoo, and they were in that like heyday of winning the championship. So I guess it'd be cool for fans like me who also like don't know the history necessarily. But at the Rogers Center though, like was it full seasons, like 1 season, 2? Like how many? Like I don't know. I'm asking you too because I have no idea.
Yeah, they ended up playing I think about 2.5 seasons
Oh wow,
there,
decent amount of time.
and then they moved, and then they played at Maple Leaf Gardens for a little bit too. When that was still around, and then I think they fully moved into the Air Canada Center, which is Scotiabank now, like in 99, I want to say.
Well, because wasn't Air Canada Center at that time was going to be just a basketball arena, and then the Leafs at the like 11th hour decided to come in, right?
Yeah, there's like this whole like ownership mess that I get into a little bit in the book too, because like the original owner got squeezed out, and then like MLSE, like the Leafs formed this like whole conglomerate and basically took over like the Leafs and the Raptors, basically the setup that it is now. So.
Yeah, I alluded to it a little bit in your intro that writing and working in sports is, even though it's like been such a, you just said, a part of like your culture and growing up here, was not always what your career was. You had a whole other life.
Yeah, I was like in the accounting / finance like field. So which like I went to school. I went to school for business, and I specialized in accounting. And I got my CPA, my I guess public accounting like license, and I actually used to work on Bay Street at Ernst & Young, like one of the big four like accounting firms.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And it was just, I mean, I bounced around a few jobs within that industry because like I was just like miserable, like I just wasn't happy. And it wasn't until I was like 27, 28, and around this time, like this was when social media was coming up. Like I know I always joke with Sarah, like I'm too old for like TikTok and like all these new things, but at the time it was like Twitter was a big thing.
Yeah.
And like she mentioned, like I had a fish named after me. Yeah, like I started building just like a personality, like sharing my thoughts about sports on there, built a little bit of a following, and started leveraging that into like reaching out to editors, being like, can I write here? Can I write there? And like the name, like the Stephen LeBron name, like actually came because I was working at a 9-to-5 job. And I didn't want HR
you needed your own
to find me.
Oh, I never even thought about that. Yeah, you just needed like your undercover identity.
Yeah, I just needed any name because like, I mean, I guess like the statute of limitations is up, but I would used to tweet in like work meetings and stuff. Not like share state secrets, but I'd be like, I can't believe I'm sitting here in this like 2-hour PowerPoint presentation right now.
I've done that previously before I was managing. I would like book conference rooms just to go and take calls to negotiate deals for my other clients.
Exactly.
Like, no, guys, I'm getting some big work done right now. Don't worry.
Yeah, so I was working a 9-to-5 job at the time, and then the Twitter stuff was happening. I was getting new opportunities. So then I was laid off from my last job because they eliminated my role, like in this like finance company. And I remember sitting in the room with the HR person and just telling them, I'm like, yo, I'm going to quit this whole industry. I'm going to move to New York, and I'm going to write about sports. I remember he gave me the pamphlet. He's like, if you're not okay, just call this number. Because I mean, I don't even blame him, man. I don't even say it as a joke. Because I'm literally working there as like a senior financial analyst.
Did you have, I know you said you were building the Twitter community, but did you have experience writing or
I would
reporting
say
in any?
I had like a few just like freelance pieces that I did. It wasn't like I had this whole resume or experience. But then what happened, like I was married at the time, and then my ex-wife got a job in New York. So then I went there as well. Like I just left my career behind, and I said that I'd give myself 6 months to a year to try to build out a new career. And that's when I started hustling, was able to build a lot of contacts, and eventually work at a lot of different places. Like I started writing for like GQ, New York Times, like these opportunities just kept coming. And then that just kind of helped propel me into this career that I'm at now. And then in 2016, I moved back to Toronto. And since then, I've been more like immersed in the Raptor space. And like, obviously, I think Sarah alluded to earlier, like working with her too at Yahoo for a few years.
Right.
Yeah. So we worked together at Yahoo Sports. For those that don't know, I used to work at Yahoo. That was my very first job out of university. I used to think I was so old when I was working there. I was like 21, 20. Like Alex was at my 23rd birthday party. Like that's like how much of a little.
Was that at the Horseshoe?
At Rock and Horse.
Rock and Horse.
All of Toronto Raptors media showed up. I invited Alex, and he goes, "Yo, can I bring some friends?" Brings like 15 members of Toronto Raptors media.
Hit me up if anybody wants disposable camera photos from that night of Sarah.
Oh, please!
I have them digitally and physical copies.
We need to publish those.
Oh my god, no, we don't. No, we don't. And it was Old Town Road to 23 was the theme, so it was like satirically like Old Town Road was the song of summer that year. So then I made everyone dress up to go to Rock and Horse, like to buy into it. And they all showed up, and I like freaked out. I just never thought I would ever see them at Rock and Horse. But that was when we were working at Yahoo. And I guess most people wouldn't know. So working in sports media, like layoffs and stuff are really common, and we experienced a really massive one when we were there. But prior to that, we grew really quickly. We went from being like a team of like 8 people at Yahoo. I was like the only girl working the team, to like overnight almost doubling our team and becoming like a player in the Toronto media scene, I would say, especially in the Raptor space. I helped work on the Danny Green podcast, and that's actually where I started producing podcasts. And so we like really rapidly grew. It was like a startup energy, even though we worked for like a massive media company. And it was so much fun. Like, aside from getting free lunch at work every day, like, we just had like the best people to work with. And then on a random Wednesday in December of 2019, so pre-pandemic, 8 of us got basically the same 8 people they'd hired full time. Like, 8 of us got laid off, and I was live texting Alex that same day.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. And like the Raptors connection to like the day of was when Kawhi Leonard, he had won the championship, signed with the Clippers. This was like his big return. And obviously at Yahoo, all of us were super excited to like cover that day.
Yeah.
But instead, like, yeah, the morning of, like, Sarah was just giving me these updates. And like, so I was freelancing at the time.
Yeah.
So like they were all full-time employees.
Yeah.
So like, not to be cold about it, but like this was pretty entertaining to me.
I mean, but at the time though, I was entertained. It was at that point. So no, we had been together the night before. A bunch of us had gone out for dinner, and we called it the Last Supper. We're live, like, we
Yes,
just knew.
because we had started hearing
We had
like
heard
you knew
rumors.
that
whispers.
there were
Well, how often do
Yeah.
you get an email from the head of the company going, everyone must be at their desk at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning?
Something's
Like, you know
happening,
something's
yeah.
happening. Did I necessarily actually think I was going to be one of the ones laid off? Absolutely not. When they only had like 3 women that were full-time employees, I honestly did not think there was a world where I was going to be one of them that got laid off.
Well, and I don't think, like, not to interrupt you, but I don't think you should sell yourself short too, because like at the time, like, you were doing a lot of stuff there, and like you were doing a really good job there. So if you were just looking at it based on like merit, and obviously a lot of these layoffs are not
not
assessed
based off
that way.
that.
It's like there's no way, like, even though you had uncertainty going to that day, there's no way you really could have been like, oh, it's gonna be me that's gonna get cut.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, it was, that morning I was texting Alex in a group chat, and I was like, oh, my last streetcar ride. Oh, my last Starbucks order. Like, all this stuff. Like,
She was very dramatic,
I was
but you
very
know how she
dramatic.
is.
And
You
so
know how
then-
she is.
So then I have
Yeah.
to send him the text. Like, cause I'm texting him all the people that are getting laid off. I go, this person's next. This person's next. And then I didn't text him for a while. He
And
goes,
you were
yo, so who's next? And I had to go, me.
because you'd been joking about it.
Because
the
I've
whole
been
day.
joking about it the whole day.
Yeah,
That's rough.
my not favorite, my least favorite memory of the day is, so Kawhi is at practice in the morning as this is all happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So none of these Yahoo people are going because they're all waiting, right? So I go and I'm there and I take this crazy photo of Kawhi. I'm standing right behind him and he's like with a horde of media members, just like this sick photo. I posted on IG, and one of our colleagues, Keyshawn, who's a photographer at Yahoo, who was also let go, is the first to comment on the photo, and he wrote, "You're the photographer now." And I was like, oh my
That is
God.
cool.
I was so crushed. I was like, and I love Keyshawn. I love Sarah. I love all the people that was working there. I think we can laugh about it now, and
No,
I
we
joke.
can.
I joke about it because like,
Yeah.
I knew at the time like it was hard for everybody, but I also knew like how much talent was in that space, and everybody was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like everybody was. I think the crushing thing, I think Sarah will agree, is just like we had such a good group. Like we had such a good group there
Yeah.
that it was crushing to see everybody like go their own way. And like even in the years since, I've always joked with Sarah to try to get her to work with me again or find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
it's
I
one of-
miss those
I do
days
too.
like
And
a lot.
I think that
Yeah.
was more, it was like not the like losing the job part that was sad. Like the day after we all got laid off, Alex and Will took us to karaoke in Koreatown, and we went and sang like Frozen and Wicked and ABBA, and just like literally drank and sang karaoke, hugging and swaying each other. We sang Yellow like by Coldplay.
I
Like,
mean, I was just at karaoke this weekend and just sang Yellow. So I'm loving these
lineup.
memories that are
no,
coming
but
back.
it was just like those like like that's what
Cathartic
happened. Like
songs,
we literally still had our company, like we had a an official company Christmas party the week after we all got laid off. We still got together and had a Christmas party because I had planned it, and I was like, well, we still love these people, and we still like, we were that tight knit. And I think it was more the end of like getting to work with so many talented people that were like-minded in a space where we had so much creativity. That's why it was like disappointing.
Is that still kind of the space, or do most people freelance right now in that side of the business, like the sport media business? I
feel
as
like-
someone on the outside of it.
I feel like it's hard. It's hard to make it as a freelancer, especially like in this city.
Right.
Like if you're not getting opportunities from the US, or like, you know, I know Sarah's done a lot of stuff, including this kind of her own thing, right? Like independent stuff. Like it's really hard, like financially, to like make it work, right? And yeah, I think the talent in this city is just so dispersed now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
that's true.
if you look at the Yahoo group, like we always joke like that was the year that the Raptors won the championship, but like we also had like a championship team. Like
Right.
we had such a like, because at the time it's like, listen, like in this city, like for sports media, it's like TSN and Sportsnet. Those are like the big companies, right? And I can't tell you how many people would like come up to me or like message me and be like, yo, like we're paying attention to what you guys are all doing at Yahoo right now. Like we're making such an impact that people in the city was
Yeah.
noticing, and it was hard to explain to anybody about the layoffs because like people just couldn't understand
Yeah.
why this team was getting broken up.
And I think that's why, like, I mean, luckily for me, what ended up happening was because people did respect what we were doing a lot and respected that space, and that like truly like, why was this happening? Like that there other opportunities were bred from it. Like any person like we had the vice president at Sportsnet at the time, or the president of Sportsnet at the time, tweeting, anyone that worked at Yahoo that wants an interview at Sportsnet, just DM me. And there's Sportsnet people texting me going, what the hell? I can't even get full-time. Like, it was crazy, actually. So we clearly made an impact, and that's the reason I was able to like find my way back on my feet pretty quickly after, was luckily because we had made that. But it's just, it was never the same. It's like, it's such a fever dream. Like it feels like that was 3 years of my life, even though it was like really 8 months that we all truly worked together.
No, you guys don't understand. Like, I didn't know we were gonna talk about this today, but like, this is like a sore spot for me. Like, so there's this. You guys might know this meme. There's a meme of Wolverine like holding a photo, like he's just like reminiscing about
Yeah.
something all the time. There's a group photo, like
Of us.
there's like 20, 30 of us,
From
like
the rec room.
Yeah, from the rec room when we had this like summer party during that stretch. And like I legit have that photo saved on my phone, and I will send it randomly to like former Yahoo people, and I will look at it from time to time. I'm like, yo, remember these days? And then it becomes a whole like hour conversation just
Yeah.
reminiscing about
Someone's
like
gotta
our
make
favorite
like
memories.
a sports like the whole like the Jordan series, for example.
No,
but,
this
like,
will be way too
recollect this.
self-indulgent.
No, but the thing is, this is just how we felt internally. Like externally, like no one, like this is so insider sports media. But I guess like for me, it was just, I was really lucky to come in and start my career in that space because I got to work with really talented people and like got to make like friendships and relationships with people that are still like in my corner, I know, to this day, which is amazing. And I know not that many people are that lucky. I was very spoiled early on into my career. But yeah, it's just, it's never felt like this. I think it's also because like we felt like underdogs, underestimated by everyone because we weren't at one of the big networks. Now you work at one of the big networks, so you are.
You know, got to follow the money. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I said. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, it was definitely an era, and it is like, you should just write a whole book about that. That should be your next book, is about the Toronto sports.
I think Jacob's
movement.
right. Like a documentary, maybe not like a 10
Do
part.
four part.
Okay, I was gonna say
seems
one
reasonable.
part. Yeah.
I mean, God knows
How
we
about we
have all the
spin off?
footage.
How about we spin off into a limited podcast series? You
Oh,
know?
we could.
Okay, actually, you know what? I'd be
Let's
in
think
for
about that.
And
Let's
then we
think
could
about
see
that.
where everyone is now,
Yeah.
where they've gone after.
Do you have, speaking seriously though, but like looking at someone who's already written 3 books now, would you do another? Do you have another topic that you do want to cover?
Yeah, so I think we were gonna talk about this, but like actually, like I was finishing this book. So the last book I wrote, I'll take a step back. So the last book I wrote was during the height of like the pandemic lockdown, and for me, like it was a great process for me because I don't know about you guys, like it just gave me a routine. Like I would wake up, like maybe go for a walk, a bike ride, come home, interview some people, do some
Yeah.
writing, feel like, oh, like I'm actually having a routine because there's nothing to do right now. This book I was doing as we were coming out of the lockdown, and as I started getting busy with like my full-time job now, I was balancing the two. And like legit, I joke to my friends, but this book really did send me to therapy. Cause like for the first time in my life, cause like the work was just like I just couldn't manage it.
Yeah.
Like it was way too much. So like to answer your question, I'm not thinking about writing another book right now, just because like this, like I'm so proud of this project. I love this project. I love the feedback that I'm getting from people, how excited people are. But when I think about this, and I've talked about this over and over again in therapy too, it's like I associate finishing this project with a lot of like not good memories.
Right.
Yeah, just because like it was a tough part in my life, like finishing this book like at the beginning of this year. So I do have a lot of other ideas that I want to do, but I think it's just like I recognize that like the undertaking of like writing a book, and a book that you can be proud of, like it's the heavy lifting that it takes. It's just like it's a lot. Like it's a lot.
Had you done therapy before? Like, would you be getting back into it? No, it was the first time.
No, it was my very first time. So like I actually had like a panic attack, and probably the first time I just like experienced those things. And I think I lapsed into just a period of feeling a lot of anxiety and also a lot of depression symptoms too once I started talking to my doctor. And for the first time, I had to think about it, because my doctor's like, I will prescribe you this medication, but you're not going to get better if you don't talk to somebody.
Exactly.
Right.
And like, not to get into a whole like, you know, like a race thing, like being an Asian, like being a Chinese person and stuff, but like in our culture, therapy is just, mental health is just not something, especially past generations, talk about a lot. Like you're just not feeling well, you know, like if you're going through something, like you're just not feeling well, and nobody really sees the value of like actually talking to somebody. And that's like the context with which like I was raised. Like one of the most like, I think like quote unquote like traumatic events for me was going through my divorce in like 2016. And I remember like there would be times like I would just like break down in front of my sister and like start crying for like no reason, because I was just like holding so much in. And I never really like talked to anybody about it outside of like conversations with my friends. But I would also be the type when people were like, oh, you should go to therapy. I'll be like, yo, what's the point? Like no stranger is going to understand me better than me, because I didn't understand the concept of therapy.
Well, and how it's like, I think the biggest misconception is that you're talking to a stranger who doesn't understand you, when really, if anything, therapy is just having a person there. So when you say it out loud and then they rephrase it back to you, it's almost like you are your own therapist in the way that it like cycles that way.
Yeah, I was the same as you before I got into therapy, and it was the same thing. It was just like, well, no, I understand where these feelings are coming from.
Or you're
or
like,
so
I'm
I thought.
or like Alex is like notorious for always making divorce jokes. It's like, you're like, it's just the context. It's what you did.
Not anymore. I've also moved on from that, just to clarify publicly.
But like, no, but it's one of those things where it's like, you go, oh, I know why I'm sad. I'm self-aware. But that
And
doesn't.
you're thinking like, oh, what am I going to benefit from this process?
Yeah.
Whereas that, I mean, maybe it was the same for you, but it completely opened my eyes when I started talking to a therapist. And I think it was probably after the first like 4 sessions, and it was almost frustrating to get to the end of those sessions and like not, and feel a little bit better, but also not be able to sit there and say it was worthless, because that's what I wanted to. I wanted to prove to myself that like, I'll go to therapy, but I'll actually like, I'm gonna prove to myself that I actually can handle the load that like I've placed on myself.
Oh, that's so
and
interesting.
it was never the case, of course, that like
not.
afterward it worked, you know.
Yeah,
I was is a process of working.
I think I was just like you. I was super skeptical the first couple times going in, and it took me like 5-6 consultations with different therapists for me to really feel a connection to somebody. And when I finally found the right therapist, I went in weekly, and like I just opened up about things that I had never talked to people about, like at that level: family, relationships, work, just like understanding myself. And like you mentioned, after 3-4 weeks, like I realized therapy is not about, I told my therapist this too. I'm like, I thought I was going to come in here, do 4 sessions, get fixed. And then like she sent me on my way.
Like check.
It's like bringing in like a broken iPhone. Like, it's like, yo, can you just like, yo, my screen's cracked right now. Can
like,
you just fix this? And then now it's all good. But it's like, oh, you're telling me therapy is just an ongoing process? You're telling me therapy is just building tools so you understand yourself? Like all this stuff, like I was just not familiar with, to the point now that I'm still going to therapy regularly. Like I take notes now every week, like on stuff that I want to talk about, because now I'm taking the initiative of like, hey, work is bothering me this week. I want to talk about this. I had this conversation with my mom the other day. I want to talk about this. Like now it's just like a two-way thing where she's not just prompting me. Like I'm going in there being like, yo, these are immediate things that are bothering me, and how do I like change that?
And the thing I like is when you get to the point where it's not all bad things you're talking about. It's like, I like when I can bring forward things that like, oh, like this happened, but this is how I approached it, or this is how I like thought about it, and I like really reflected on how I was feeling and why it made me feel that way. When you can have those moments of like, it's almost like you're like telling your therapist that therapy's working, because you're like explaining the good things that happen. And sometimes it's just nice to have a sounding board for good things in your life too, because and once you have that relationship with them, it doesn't always have to be bad things, which is a really nice
I found
part.
that too, where I kind of think about it like it assists in contextualizing the emotions that you have, and those could be happy things, those could be sad things, and kind of, Alex, like you mentioned too, it's like when you're breaking down in front of a family member and you're crying and you don't really understand why, it really is another tool to help you think about where those emotions are coming from, which is helpful too.
okay, but now that you're like someone that started therapy and like maybe have like a newfound appreciation or all that with mental health, is this something you'd ever like want to explore like with work as well, like with athletes and all of that?
Yeah, to be honest, it's like I've noticed like the last say like 5 years, like athletes, especially like in the NBA space that I'm in, like DeMar DeRozan was huge on speaking out on mental health. I think Kevin Love, when he was on the Cavs as well, described a situation where he like had a panic attack during a game and like had to go home. And I used to read those stories and like I understood what they were going through, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or
like
it's like you like empathize, like you're like, okay, like I get it, like you're sad, but like
yeah. No, but I was
next
just like,
story,
yeah,
yeah.
you're sad. Like, I'm like, I've been sad before too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
people go through this and maybe they're just going through it because they have such a bigger spotlight on them, right? But now it's making me realize, since I've gone through the same process, like now it's making me actually like empathize with them and like actually understand like every person is the exact same. And like I think that's just part of understanding it too. So yeah, it's something that I'm definitely like interested in, maybe want to tap into in however many ways. But I also feel like I'm in such it's such a early in the process for me.
Yeah,
right
of
now.
course.
Like I still feel like I'm still peeling back like so many like layers and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's still stuff that like sometimes I'll be like, yo, I'm not ready to talk to my therapist about yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing, how long have you been in therapy
So
now?
since like February.
Okay, so I just passed 1 year, and I just last week told my therapist that I have really vivid dreams, and she looked at me like I remember my dreams every single night. Like there's never a night I don't remember my dreams. I have really vivid dreams. And she looked at me and she goes, like, she didn't say, are you fucking kidding me? But I could tell the look on her face was like, you're just telling me this now. And she goes, you know, dreams can mean something. I go, I don't think so. And she goes, I need you to start writing. Like, it's just stuff like that. Like, it's been, here I am thinking I'm this like open book with her and I've told her everything.
Yeah.
And like last week something comes up that I hadn't told her yet. So it's like, it's an ongoing thing. So it's, trust me, like you'll be peeling back layers for years. I feel like there's no point in your life that you actually get to a point where your therapist knows absolutely everything anyway.
Well, kind of back to your point, it's just like it is a process, right? It's an ongoing.
It's like going to the
thing.
gym.
Yeah, exactly.
Or working out or running.
That is something as well, to go back to the athlete side of things as well. Like DeMar DeRozan obviously was one of the biggest ones. You mentioned Kevin Love as well. But I feel like we are in a little bit of a different playing field with professional athletes these days, especially with the advent of social media. People feel closer to athletes. And that can go both ways, right? That can be a little bit more straining on relationships that maybe they have with fans, or it can be a really positive thing with, like you're saying, being able to empathize with them. Outside of the actual like signing of good players and whatnot, what do you think, with all the research and experience you have in the industry and studying the Raptors specifically, what can a team do to become more impactful in positive ways in the world, do you think?
I think honestly it's like providing resources for them and creating an environment where players feel comfortable to like speak up about these things, right? Because I think it's only been recently that like players have come out and talked about these things. And like if you go back and think about like your favorite athletes from like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, like maybe they had like a very public episode where they had like a breakdown or something controversial happen, or they snapped at a reporter or things like that. No one ever looked at it from that perspective, right? No one ever wanted to understand, right? It was just like, oh, this person's just like going off, you know, the cuff right now. Like, what is wrong with this athlete? So I think number one, definitely, like I think teams have to continue and step up and provide the resources. But I think it's just like, as media people, it's like how you talk about these things too, right? Like I think we rush to judgment a lot when we, you know, talk about these players, and we can be very critical of them. Sometimes we don't, like you mentioned, create that space to understand what they're dealing with, especially in this like social media era. They can hear the feedback from fans all the time. Like last year when Fred VanVleet was here, that's one of the things he kept talking about. It was like, I have to shut down my social media because people are just talking about my personal life, like about my family and stuff. And I'm getting DMs where people are basically just like threatening me because they like lost a bet and stuff. So I think it's just, as media people, like we have a responsibility too in this space to just like be more understanding of that and maybe talk about it more.
Yeah, and I think it's also where it's like it's humanized. That was where working on Danny's show really humanized athletes for me. Like, for those who don't know, I used to produce Inside the Green Room with Danny Green. It was the first, actually at the time, it was like it was like one of the first player podcasts while a player was actually competing. So I know now there's like Travis Kelce is one, all these people have like in
Oh,
season
now you know
podcast.
Travis Kelce. That was a
Anyways.
very specific drop, is
Anyways.
all I'm saying.
Yeah, but anyways, but it also say is like Danny was one of the first ones doing it at the time, but it did give me a different perspective because it was my first time seeing an athlete not like in like the realm of just like being at the arena. Like I was just so used to doing and like, or when they're on a media day tour, like they've got it turned on. Like when you see a guy every single week like record a podcast and he's like talking to his buddies, like you see a really different side, and it's just like it humanizes them a lot more. So I think it really puts like also like a face to the name, and like and it just helps you understand that like even if you're just tweeting something, like they can probably still see that people are still people. So I think people are understanding that a lot more about athletes and not thinking so much as they're just like characters on a screen as well, which is like I think what the past used to think about as well.
Yeah, talking about expanding, I guess, like the horizons of how you look at an athlete. Jumping back to the book, Prehistoric, are there any other kind of elements of the founding of the Raptors that people might be surprised by, you think?
Yeah, I think one of the most popular things that people love to talk about is just how like the branding and the name of the team was like based on the movie Jurassic Park at the time. And that's because like the original owner, John Bitove Jr., like his son, I want to say was like 7 years old at the time, and that was his favorite movie. And somehow that became like a huge influence. But what I did was I dove a little deeper into just how the original uniforms and the logo was designed. They had worked with a creative director named Tom O'Grady at the NBA who had been designing logos for the other teams as well. So there's a lot of tidbits in there just about how originally the Raptor was supposed to be lime green instead of red.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because like John, the owner, wanted to be not the Toronto Maple Leafs, not the Toronto Blue Jays, not the Argos. He's like, let's come up with something that's like hip and like people would really like, younger kids would really like vibe with and stuff. And he wanted no red because like that's like the Canadian flag color and stuff. So they designed the logo to be lime green and all these different colors. But then the NBA was like, no, you need some like Canadian reference in there. So they actually had to like give it up. So there's a lot of those fun tidbits in there. And I think the other fun part, I keep going back to just like telling the stories of the people. It's like sometimes people don't think about like beyond just building a team and the players, like how the different parts of the organization of a sports team has to get built up.
Yeah.
So like it's a lot of stories in there about how the first ever like television broadcast team was put together.
Oh, interesting.
There's stories. There's a backstory about how the first dance team, the dance pack, was put together. And I was able to interview a lot of people that was involved in that. And, there was a lot of, Tamara Mose, who was like responsible. She was actually on In Living Color, the sitcom. She was a fly girl on there. And then she got hired to put together the dance team. And she like made it a point to have both men and women on the team. On the dance team.
Yeah.
And she made sure, obviously, like I know people throw out the word diversity, but it's like different races, like different, even she talked about just like different builds, right? Like skinnier girls, right? And different types, and like she was very mindful of all that stuff. And I was able to really dive into that community too, of like what it meant for these girls to kind of come together. And it was cool to find out the stories of these people, because a lot of them were like still going to like high school at the time,
Right.
Oh, that's
like even
crazy.
university. So they would tell me, they're like, we take the train downtown and we'd do our homework like on the GO train and then we'd go dance, and then like during a halftime break, like we'd have to like go in the closet to like take a nap because we were so
You're so
tired.
tired.
Wild.
Yeah, so it's like,
So it's like from all angles.
yeah,
of the
this is what I try to tell
organization.
people. It's like, listen, the players are very heavily featured in this, obviously, to kind of cover their stories. But like, to me, like this book is about all of these other stories. Like I want people to come out of this understanding not just the origin story of the Raptors, but like the backstories of all these people who had their hands in making this happen.
Well, make sure if that didn't just convince you to read this book, I don't know what would. Make sure you go pick up Prehistoric. It is out now. Thank you so much for coming on Talking Fast, Alex. And you looked at me like, oh, it's over? Okay, great.
Oh, thank you both.
Make sure you check out Alex. You can follow him at Stephen LeBron, or you can name your fish after him if you want to do that too. We come out with new episodes of Talking Fast every single Wednesday. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, all the good things. We don't want negativity here. And we will see you next week.